Today's topic, 3 non-sex moves that turn a man on, and men crave this. Okay, let's face it, physical connection, sexual connection is an important part of a relationship. In fact, the differentiating factor between romantic relationships and just friendships and family and such is the physical connection with another human being. And while I'm not a sex expert, and I want to just be very clear, I'm not a sex expert, what I'm about to share is a reflection of a forum I belong to where there are thousands of men. And within this group of men, they shared the types of things that turn them on. And I went and did my own investigation with my circle of male friends to ask, what are some non-sexual moves that turn you on? And I thought this would be a good conversation for today. Now, in a previous video, I did share one non-sexual move that men crave, and that is centered around spooning. Now, I want to be clear, when I shared that video about spooning, I'm talking about emotionally connected men. I'm talking about emotionally mature men. Now, I say emotionally connected, we have a significant percentage of the population who is deeply wounded, whether they're a man or a woman. And people who are emotionally wounded have a difficult time connecting on an emotional level. And spooning is a very intimate, emotional experience with another human being. And so when I shared that, I also want to point out that not every man likes that because maybe they're sensitive to certain things, but most likely in many cases, they have difficulty opening up emotionally to another person. So even that act of spooning can be very challenging for those. So when I shared that in the video, and what I'm talking about today is centered around those men who are emotionally in touch with themselves. And even within this conversation, when I share these 3 non-sex moves, I'm talking about men who have most likely done some inner work. They're introspective. They have a sense of their emotions, their feelings. And in this particular case, in this study, most men agreed these are the types of things that turn them on. Now, I want to address something. Since I mentioned the physical sexual component of a relationship, I want you to look at a successful relationships that it's like the following. I want you to picture a rectangular table with 6 legs, okay? There's legs on each corner, and there's 2 legs in the center. Now, why I'm using this example is I want to kind of point out how each leg of a table represents one solid factor within a successful relationship. Okay, one solid factor. So within that leg of the table is emotional connection. We talked about that a little bit already. Another leg in the table is intellectual connection. Another leg to the table is what I call practical responsibilities, and I'll dive into this a little bit more. Another leg to the table is spiritual connection. Another leg to the table is emotional maturity and relationship skills. And then the final leg to the table, and this is in no particular order, is the physical sexual connection within a relationship. See, as I said earlier, what differentiates romantic relationships from every other type of relationship is there's a physical connection with another human being, usually even on a sexual level. Now, I say usually. For those of us in midlife, sex may not be as important as it was in our 20s and 30s. And yet, at this stage in our lives, I will tell you that there's a significant percentage of people that are still highly driven by their physical need to connect with another human being. And quite frankly, I was even telling a client who is 65 years old this morning, listen, get as much sex as you possibly can until you can no longer. And that's what a lot of people do at midlife. So these legs of the table, I said emotional connection. See, that's an important facet to a successful relationship, is having an emotional, intimate connection with another human being. Now, I know many of you ladies are frustrated in the dating marketplace because you're experiencing men who are emotionally constipated. They're emotionally unavailable. They are emotional zombies walking around. And I know for many of you, that can be rather frustrating. And yet, without some level of emotional connection, if that leg on the table is weak, I want you to imagine, as I'm sharing these 6 legs to the table, if any leg is weak, it makes the table somewhat unstable and may not be safe to sit on such a table. So when two people have a good emotional connection, that's a great start. If they had an intellectual connection, in other words, there's a meeting of the minds, there's a relative simpatico in that sense. In fact, many people have now identified themselves as sapiosexual. Sapiosexual means what turns them on most is a intellectual connection with another human being. And certainly feeling like you are with, not necessarily has to be your equal, but somebody that can keep up with you at an intellectual level represents one of the legs in the table. Now, that third leg, and again, this is in no particular order, is that practical responsibility. This is a person who takes care of their bills and takes care of their health, takes care of their bills and takes care of their health. Now, I say this because there's a significant percentage of the population who is struggling on a financial perspective. Many people are even substantially in debt. Makes it not that debt is a bad thing per se, but they're struggling financially. And in this case, many people in midlife are not in the capacity to take care of two people. Some people struggle to take care of themselves, but at least they're responsible in this way. They're responsible in their health. And that's a really important leg to a table. Now, is it the corner to your table or is it those two center ones? You have to decide this for yourself, but practical responsibilities. Spiritual connection. You know, very few couples actually engage at this level. Now, certainly those that are religious have a spiritual connection, but there is some value to being connected to something higher than yourselves. What's the purpose of life? Why am I here? What's this all for? Those questions that require some deeper emotion, deeper thinking, deeper, reflecting. Those couples that have a spiritual connection seem to have a stronger leg to that's a strong leg to a table. Remember, we're trying to keep that table such that you can stand on such a table. Now, I also included emotional maturity and relationship skills. Well, sadly, we are swimming in a population of emotionally dysfunctional human beings with poor relationship skills at best and weak emotional maturity. This is one of the weakest legs in most of the tables out there. This successful relationship table I speak of, there is a weak level of relationship skills, a weak level of communication skills. And so I'm just here to draw attention to this. And the sixth and final leg is that physical sexual connection you have with someone. And by the way, two people that are very compatible sexually, oftentimes that's a strong leg of their table that I'm talking about that allows them to flourish in their relationship if they are hitting those other legs to the table. So just to repeat those legs to the table: emotional connection, intellectual connection, practical responsibilities, spiritual connection, emotional maturity and relationship skills, and finally, physical and sexual connection with a person. These are the 6 legs to the table of a successful relationship. And I hope that gives you some context of how to maybe view the next person or the person you're in relationship right now and ask yourself these questions. Are we aligned with one another? Are the legs on our table as secure as I wish them to be? All right, so now we're going to dive into the 3 non-sexual moves that turn a man on. Men crave this. And as I said before, this was based on a survey in a forum I belong to of thousands of men. And I also did a follow-up with my circle of friends. And these were the top 3 of the many that came up. So I wanted to lean into this conversation. This is basically foreplay, if you will. These foreplay moves that turn a man on. They're non-sexual foreplay. And this might be someone's kink as well. So you've got to decide. And by the way, our kink is what turns us on, right? So the first one is, again, this isn't based on Jonathan's philosophy. This is just based on some work I did out in the forum world. The first one is sensual teasing touch. Sensual teasing touch. Things like slowly running your fingers through his hair, Now, I get it. A lot of men don't have hair, have limited hair, but that's certainly one thing. You've seen me do this frequently. Your fingers along, your nails along his back. That's another sensual teasing touch. Your lips over sensitive areas like his neck, his chest, his inner thigh, his lower abdomen, without immediately going to the obvious spots. These are teasing techniques. These are ways to arouse a connection. And so these are just some light teasing touches, creates anticipation. It creates excitement. It creates that desire to want to connect. I think foreplay is underrated for a lot of people. They go immediately to sex, but there's this dance of connecting with this foreplay, these non-sexual moves that heightens your physical connection with another human being. And so I'm inviting you all to kind of lean into these things and ask yourself the next time you're connecting with someone is maybe have a conversation with them about this. Maybe you have them watch this video with you. And certainly do your own homework when it comes to non-sexual touch or foreplay with a man or with your partner. I invite couples to do this together so they can learn about each other's bodies. And it's to be open about these conversations instead of just expecting that we all divinely know this. Oh, we just know this stuff. You know, the truth is every person is different. Everybody has a different preference. I know in my relationship, I share my preferences. And certainly with women that I've dated, I share my preferences and I invite them to share their preferences as well. But certainly of thousands of men that were surveyed, this happened to be one of the top ones, was sensual teasing touch. Number 2. Now, I'm going to share with you what was shared publicly, but I have a slight modification to this. So it said, whispering dirty talk. Whispering dirty talk. Lean in close, whisper something suggestive, or compliment him in a sultry tone. Let your breath hit his ear, or this is what I wrote down. Let your breath hit his ear or neck as you speak to build the arousal through both words and physical sensation. But I want to add something different than dirty talk. I'm inviting you to whisper appreciation. You know, men's number one complaint after divorce is they didn't feel appreciated in their marriage. That's the number one complaint, I think, of hundreds of thousands of men who have, I guess it's the exit interview after a divorce. What was one thing that you felt was a failure in your relationship? They didn't feel appreciated. You know, this is true for men and women alike. I think couples do such a poor job of expressing appreciation to one another. I can tell you that gratitude, appreciation is one of the foundational pieces to a successful relationship. So in this non-sexual move, this foreplay, you can simply whisper some of the things you appreciate about the person you're with. I know I experienced that. I know I abundantly do my best to express appreciation, because when you appreciate someone, you value them. When you value them, you want them in your life. When you value them, you want to be physically connected with them. And I think gratitude and appreciation is one of the strongest forces, one of the strongest forms of love. And when we whisper it, it's actually in that sultry tone. It actually connects him to his heart. Well, we're hoping that it connects to his heart. Not everyone is capable of that. But when you do it in such a way, it allows him to connect with his heart. And number 3, the final one, is passionate kissing and nibbling. Passionate kissing and nibbling. Deep, lingering kisses mixed with gentle nibbling on his lips, earlobes, or collarbone that can drive him wild. Vary the pressure and the pace to keep things exciting and unpredictable. Yes, passionate kissing and nibbling. Those are certainly some things you can do to create a stronger bond with your person, because let's face it, dating and relationships these days are rather complicated. It is such, I mean, in some cases, it's so mind-boggling overwhelming for some people to connect with one another. And I know these videos aren't the end all be all answer to everything, but I'm just inviting some perspective. I'm inviting some opportunities that maybe you can practice some of these things. Maybe you can encourage your partner to both have a conversation about physical intimacy, because as I said before, in those 6 legs to a table, it happens to be, I think, one of the corner legs is that sexual physical connection and compatibility is radically important for a successful relationship long term. For those of you that are relatively new in a relationship, I'm not talking about a seasoned relationship. Sex, maybe that might have that ship might have sailed, but certainly for those that are in new relationships, fledgling relationships, beginning a relationship, I'm inviting you all to recognize the value of this. And I'm going to repeat those 3 non-sexual moves that turn a man on. Sensual, teasing, touch. Sensual, teasing, touch. Number 2, whispering dirty talk, or my modification is whispering appreciation in a very sultry voice. And lastly, number 3 is passionate kissing and nibbling. Passionate kissing and nibbling. Can someone write that down and post it for us all? I hope someone will do that for us. Hey, did you get value out of this conversation? I'd like to hear your thoughts. Post a comment below. I do my best to read them all in the first 24 hours. As always, if you find value in the videos, please hit that like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you can be notified of new videos. And if you want to connect with me directly, there's links below to schedule a discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. There's a link to join my group called Midlife Love Mastery, where you can have direct access to me on a regular basis. There's a link to follow me on Instagram to get the books I recommend, all listed below.